Kingdom, Animalia. Remember, the kingdoms are, we have protists, plants, animals, fungi. Am I forgetting any? That's it. Okay, so we were talking about kingdom Animalia. These are the features. They're eukaryotic, multicellular. Animals are motile. They move around at some phase of their lives. They are heterotrophs, meaning they must eat food. They have no cell wall. Remember, plants have cellulose cell wall, fungi have chitin cell wall, and diatoms have a glass cell wall or silica. All animals have a blastula stage during development, which is a hollow ball of cells. Animals really exploded during the Cambrian explosion, and we saw a lot of animal fossils happening at that time. There's two major groups of animals, those that have a spinal cord called the vertebrates, or those without a spinal cord called the invertebrates. For my test and for my test and the AP, I'm not going to expect that you know all of the details of all of these things, but you should know some of the basics. Right? So in animal development, you should know that when sperm fertilizes an egg, we create a zygote, which is diploid. That zygote goes through cell division or cleavages to make 8 cell, and then 16, and then 32, and eventually you form a blastula, which is a hollow ball of cells with a blastocele on the inside. After that, you form this blastocele kind of folds in on itself through a process called gastrulation, which creates 3 kinds of germ layers: the endoderm, ectoderm, and then eventually the mesoderm. Animals are categorized as either protostomes, meaning their mouth formed first, or deuterostomes, doo-doo, meaning the anus formed first by this gastrulation. So there's 3 types of body cavities in the animal world. Those with coeloms, meaning a body cavity completely lined with mesoderm, which is here in pink. So you have flatworms, which are the platyhelminthes, and these are acoelomates. They have no body cavity. They just have that digestive cavity. And then we have the pseudocoelomates, which are the nematodes, where we have a body cavity in addition to the digestive cavity, but it's not completely lined with mesoderm. And then we have the coelomates, which are a lot of the organisms, a lot of the animals, in particular the more complex animals. And we have not only a gut that goes from mouth to anus, but also there is a body cavity as well called the coelom. So animal classification can be based on several different things: morphological, developmental. Most often now, scientists are using molecular data, meaning protein or DNA sequences, to determine how closely related organisms are. Regardless of the classification method, we can see that all animals share a common ancestor. Sponges are the simplest of all animals. Most animals have evolved to have bilateral symmetry, and chordates, which are the ones that have those backbones, are Deuterostomes, right? So those are anus first formation. So there's 9 animal phyla that we talked about: Porifera, sponges; Cnidaria, the jellyfish; Platyhelminthes, the flatworms; nematode, roundworms; Mollusca, which are like the clams and the bivalves, and the octopi. And then we have annelids, which are segmented worms; arthropods, the creepy crawly insects; echinodermata, which are the starfish; and then chordata, which are going to be all the vertebrates. So just going to go over the things that I think are the most important for each. First, porifera, no tissues, no symmetry, the most simple. Cnidaria, they are radially symmetric, They have tentacles with stinging cells called nematocysts. Platyhelminthes are the flatworms. They are acoelomates, and really kind of do a transition because they are hermaphrodites and mostly parasitic. The nematodes are roundworms. They're also primarily hermaphroditic, meaning they have both male and female sexes, and they have a pseudocoelom. Phylum Annelida are the segmented worms. They have true body cavities, complex nervous systems, and of all of these, I just want to mention the Platyhelminthes is the first time we saw cephalization, or the formation of centralized sensory or neurons and organs at one side of the organism. And these are all bilaterally symmetrical. Then we go to the phylum Mollusca. These are bilaterally symmetric as well. They have a muscular foot, and they secrete a shell. Even octopi have a mantle kind of that secretes some bony-like material up in their mouth region. Phylum Arthropoda, these have an exoskeleton with jointed appendages. That exoskeleton is made of chitin. They have segmented bodies. They're the creepy crawlers. Echinodermata, these guys, echinodermata always reminds me of something pokey. And these have spines and kind of spiny bodies. So these are like sea urchins, sea cucumbers, starfish. What are these? Sand dollars. They have a really amazing regeneration ability. You can cut off a leg of a starfish and it will regenerate. They move around by tube feet, which are shown here, and they have a hydrostatic skeleton, so not a real skeleton. The phylum Chordata are all of the vertebrates. These are all characterized by 4 common things. They have a notochord, meaning vertebrae. They have dorsal nerve cord, meaning the kind of soft tissue on the inside for sensory material or sensory neurons. They have pharyngeal slits and a post-anal tail. So even though we do not come out of, we are not born with tails and slits, which are kind of like gills, we do have those as embryos. The simplest of all the vertebrates is called are tunicates. Tunicates and then lancelets. So tunicates are the simplest chordate, or the simplest vertebrate. They are only motile at the larval stage. As an adult, they kind of look like a sponge, but they're different because they have an in-hole and an out-hole, and they're just much more complex. Lancelets are the second kind of evolutionary step, and these kind of resemble a fish, but they lack jaws and they lack any obvious head and sensory organs. Then we have a lot of the fishes. We have jawless fish, we have cartilaginous fish, and then we have the bony fish. The bony fish are the fish that we always think of as just the normal fish. Then we have this very interesting transitional organism, which really kind of shows the transition from water to land. These are the lobe-finned fish. They have fins with many bones and muscles, which they can actually move around, very similar to the very first land organisms, which are the amphibians. Amphibians are primarily aquatic, but they can also live on. Sorry, my cat just puked. So they're aquatic and terrestrial. They're cold-blooded. And remember, cold-blooded does not mean they have cold blood. It means that their blood is the temperature of whatever environment they're in. They have external fertilization and really soft shells. Soft eggs without shells that need a really moist environment. They also have a lot of diffusion through their skin. The reptiles are next. These have a lot more adaptations for kind of filling a lot of the ecological niches on land. They're dry and scaly skin. They have internal fertilization. They have 4-chambered heart. A big adaptation was having a shelled amniotic egg, which allowed for protection and preventing desiccation or drying out of these eggs. The birds, don't forget that birds are also reptiles, which is a weird thing. They're warm-blooded. So this means that they spend a lot of energy maintaining a constant internal body temperature, just like the mammals. Most of them can fly, they have feathers, scaly legs, etc. Then we have the mammals, warm-blooded. We have mammary glands and hair and fur. Most give live birth except for 3 kinds. We have the monotremes, like the platypus that lay eggs, marsupials, like kangaroos that have pouches, and but most of them are placentals, meaning we have a uterus and a placenta, and we give live birth. There are a lot of stresses that animals face moving from an aquatic to a terrestrial environment, and you should think about what adaptations were necessary as animals went into terrestrial living. Same with plants. When plants went from aquatic to terrestrial, you should think of those adaptations. So in plants, we have vascular tissue, we have roots, we have seeds and flowers and fruits. In land, we have amniotic eggs. We have the formation of tetrapod, meaning 4 legs. We have a lot of things, internal fertilization, so things that prevent desiccation and drying out. Okay, that was animals.